Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is a profile on Mayor PBredesen, the mayor of Nashville, Tennessee. And of course we have with us in the studio Mayor PBredesen. And of course, Mayor, let me welcome you to the show this morning.
Thank you, Dr. Haney. Have been, what's this, the fourth show we've done together? That's right.
And it's certainly a privilege to have you here to sort of do what we believe would sort of characterize this show, and that is to sort of sum up the administrations that you've had here at Nashville. As a matter of fact, I think, Mayor, you will recall that shortly after you announced for the mayor of Nashville that you were a guest on one of our earlier shows, and you gave us a lot of information about your background, your education, and that kind of information. And certainly there are still a large number of Nashvillians who might not know you from that perspective. And so let's start by having you to talk about your background, your education, some of the things that were important, and some of the things that were in a real sense motivating in making you decide to run for the mayor of Nashville, Tennessee. Let's do it from that perspective. I think that will sort of help us to summarize it.
It's, I grew up in a small town upstate New York, and a very small town, about 1,100 people. Grew up, lived with my grandmother. She had 11 children, all of whom lived in that town and had families, so that's actually where I should have run for mayor. I might have gotten elected the first time. Went off from there to Harvard, which is where I went to college, and studied physics there, something I, of course, use every day in my job as mayor. And, you know, over the years, went out and got involved in the business world, primarily with computers to start with, and had learned a lot about those when I was studying in college, and on into healthcare, and eventually started my own company and grew it up and sold it. You know, I found myself in the late 1980s having had a career in business and having sold my company, and I wanted to, I guess, to give something back, to decide what I wanted to do, and that maybe could help some people, and decided that I'd like to be mayor. I guess I would have thought when I was in college that it was the federal government that did everything, but as I got, you know, as I learned more about it, I really liked the idea of being in a job where the rubber meets the road, closer to the people, and so I've really enjoyed it. I've been mayor for 7.5 years now, and got a half year to go, and have enjoyed it very much, and I hope people think that I've contributed to the city during the time I've been here.
As a matter of fact, I understand that your last day in office will be in September.
Right.
And I think that will give us an opportunity to look at those administrations, and let's do it from that perspective. I think we've got enough time here to sort of give you an opportunity to reflect on some of the things that you've been involved in, and perhaps many of the things that you've not had an opportunity to reflect upon in quite a while. But to look at it from that perspective, to talk about your two administrations and what you considered to be the major achievements in both those administrations, and there's certain other areas that we'd like to talk about, but from your own perspective and in your own words, from that perspective.
Sure. You know, I think when you're first elected to a job like mayor, there's a certain amount of time where it takes you to get your feet on the ground and understand the levers of the job, particularly if you're from outside the political system, which I was. I'd never held a political office before. Probably the first major thing that I became involved with was really this whole Meharry General merger, and in a way it's what I'm going out working on as well. But that was something that, because I'd been involved in healthcare for a lot of my professional life, was a natural and comfortable kind of thing to do, and I'm very proud of it. I think it's I think that ultimately what we put together was good for General Hospital and helped to ensure its survival. I think it certainly was good for Meharry and helped to solidify and strengthen that institution, and I feel very, very good about it. It's gone along very well.
Now, there's been a recent move in reference to that. What's the most recent development?
Well, the most recent thing was that Meharry and Nashville and Vanderbilt are all working together now as a team. Vanderbilt has been brought in fact, just the other night, the council finally passed all this material. Vanderbilt has been brought in to manage the day-to-day administrative side of the hospital. Meharry will continue to manage the medical side of the hospital. So Vanderbilt sort of substitutes for the city in that regard. I think that'll help everybody a lot, because Vanderbilt doesn't have as many constraints on what they can do as the city has. They can make decisions faster in that environment. They've got a great purchasing program there. They can buy supplies and equipment less expensively than the city can. I think it'll benefit to the hospital, and I know that I know Meharry's real happy about it.
Good, very good. So everybody's happy with it in terms of the layout.
So far, everybody's happy, but we'll see what happens.
Okay. Very good. You know, and looking at that as one of the hallmarks of your first administration, also I think that one of the things that was very, very important had to do with downtown development. Right. Generally, when we reflect upon Nashville before you became mayor, certainly there had been efforts to modernize and develop downtown, but let's talk about it from that perspective, downtown development.
Yeah, when I ran for the office, it's hard to remember now, but there was a lot of talk about in that campaign about downtown development. It was one of the major, I would say one of the major issues. What are you going to do to get the downtown back again? So I've worked hard on that. I think we've had some good successes. We really started out with this decision to build the arena. That was the first big move downtown. I had looked at before that whether or not we could do something with retail downtown, and I guess the conclusion I came to is that was very difficult. We have a lot of retail space in Nashville, a lot of it out in suburban shopping centers, and I thought it was going to be very hard to get people to come and shop downtown, at least in the same stores. They could go to any one of a dozen malls and go to. But entertainment seemed to be an area that we really could build around, and a lot of cities have. So we made a commitment in terms of the arena to bring people down there, to commit to entertainment, and it's worked amazingly well. I mean,
you think that's very good?
Yeah, there's been a lot of new investment in the downtown area. There's been a lot of new people coming downtown who hadn't been down there before to events and sporting events and music events and so on. And I'm very, very pleased with the way that's all worked. Now, there's a lot of work yet to be done. I don't think we shouldn't be sitting on our hands at this point. We need to keep working at growing the downtown and getting new businesses to locate down there, but I think we're on the right track.
And so the arena was the key, do you think?
I think it was the first big commitment that people who had money of their own to invest were looking up and saying, well, if the city's willing to invest $120 million in arena down there, maybe we should be a part of that. Most recent thing is, as you probably know, is there's a hotel complex going up right adjacent to the arena. And
now talk about that. I don't think that many people are familiar with that.
Yeah, there's a Hilton Suites hotel that will be going up just off Broadway, right next to the arena. It'll be, I think it's approximately 600 rooms, if I'm not mistaken on that number. It's interesting in that it's a partnership that includes an out-of-town developer and some local partners in the thing, including a significant minority interest in the hotel, African-American interest in the hotel. And I'm real pleased with it. I think they're going to build a very fine hotel that's going to help us bring convention business to the city, and certainly be a place where people who come into events at the arena can stay. It's going to be a fine facility.
Now, Mayor, of course, when you talk about downtown development, you have to look across the Cumberland River, and I think that that's another one of those.
The big one over there.
That's the big development. What about the stadium? Where do we stand with that? And let's talk about, you know, the very idea of being able to conceive of Nashville as a NFL city in terms of where we were when you first started this. Of course, I hate to raise that. We've got only a minute before our commercial break, but let's start talking about that.
Okay. It's probably, we can continue on a little bit after that if it's okay. When we started with the arena, there really wasn't any thought of having Major League professional sports. In fact, I still got a couple of newspaper columns I clipped and keep in my office where people say, you know, what a stupid idea it was that we ever might have professional sports here. What we discovered as we got going in the arena was that it probably was a pretty attractive market for professional sports. And we started going out and feeling around and looking, and particularly for an NBA or an NHL team to come to town. We had several false starts. You know, we had to get out there and try the Timberwolves, if you remember, and the New Jersey Devils and others. But in the end, we were successful in attracting not only a hockey team, but also kind of out of the blue, we got a request to consider football, and we have, and successfully.
And let me interrupt here, Mayor, for our first commercial break. And we'll be back with you following this short commercial break. Of the city of Nashville.